Hey guys, and welcome to episode 3 in the Python programming series. In this episode, we'll learn about what conditionals are and how to use them. With that out of the way, let's get right into the video. You may be wondering, what are conditionals? Well, in programming, conditionals are expressions that evaluate to either true or false. We can store these values in a boolean. A boolean is a data type that stores values that are either true or false. Great, but how do we do this in Python? Well, Python is actually quite simple. We start by declaring a variable. I'm going to call mine conditional. Then, instead of setting it equal to something like a number, we're going to set it equal to an expression. In this case, I will be checking if 1 is equal to 1. This statement may look confusing, so let's break it down. We are setting a variable equal to this expression. This expression is checking if 1 is equal to 1, which is true. The reason why we use two equal signs is because we are checking if 1 is equal to 1. We are not setting 1 equal to 1. Now, when we run this, we don't have any errors. We can also print out this value, and it'll print true. However, if we change this number to a 2, now we are checking if 1 is equal to 2, which it is not, so it'll print false. Another thing we can do is directly give values to our variable. So now if we set conditional to false directly, it'll print false. And if we change it to true, it will print true. Those are great, but if we already know what our variable is, why do we have to check for it? Well, what if we didn't know what our variable was equal to? So now, I'm going to teach you about the input function. The way it works is you define a variable, so I'll say number, and then when I set it equal to, similar to how we type the print function, type input, and then open parenthesis, and then in here we could say we put a string. So say enter the number, like that. So what this will do is once we run it, it'll allow the user to put in a number that they want to put in. And then we can print out that number. So if you run this, say enter a number, you can click here, say 9, it'll print out 9. So this is great, but now how do we check if it's a certain value? Well, do this using conditionals. Similar to how we did before, instead of writing an expression for a variable, we're going to write it in the form of a if statement. So the way we do this is by saying if, and then say number is equal to 5 using the double equal sign, and then a colon. Now when you click enter, it'll automatically indent it, which is the equivalent of a tab, and in here we can print your number is greater than or is equal to 5. So if we run this and we type in 5, it will not work. The reason it won't work is because number is a string, so what we have to do is convert it to an integer. The way we do this is by typing int, and then parenthesis, and then our variable. So before, the problem with this input is that when we get the input from our console, it is in a string format. So what we have to do is convert it to an int. So if the integer of the number is equal to 5, we'll print your number is equal to 5. So now when we run this, type in 5, say your number is equal to 5. But if it's not equal to 5, say 4, it'll do nothing. We can fix this with an else statement. So instead I can put else colon and then it'll indent again, and we can type another print statement. Your number is not equal to 5. So now no matter what number we type in, it'll print out something. If we type in 1, it'll say your number is not equal to 5. But if we type in 5, it'll say your number is equal to 5. So far, our code is looking great. But what if instead of 5, we wanted to check for 5 and 4? How do we do this? Well, one way we can do it is by having a bunch of if statements. However, this is not efficient because it'll check if it's 5, and then regardless of if it is 5 or not, it'll also check if it was 4. So how would we fix this, or what would we do instead? Instead, we could do an else if statement. An else if statement will check the first statement, and only if it is not true will it proceed to the next statement. See? So how do we do this? Well, in Python, instead of typing in else if, what we do is we type in elif, which is short for else if. Then we can do the same thing we did before. If int number is equal to, instead of 5, 4. And then here we can actually just copy paste this. And then instead of saying it is equal to 5, the 4. So now when we run this, enter a number, let's say we do 5 the first time, it will run this and it won't even bother checking these two, because these two only happen sequentially if this is not true. So if we run this again and type in 4 instead of 5, it'll run this, and this is false, so it won't do this statement that is indented here. Instead, it'll go to the next one and say, well, the number is equal to 4, so we do this line. And then it won't even bother running this code because it already found that this is true. Is check for string values instead of number values. So to do this, I'll demonstrate it using names. So instead of saying enter the number, I'll say enter your name. And then in this case, we don't need to change the value to a number because we want it to be a string. And in here, instead of 5, we will put Daniel. Now, in here we'll print your name is Daniel. Notice that if we run this and we do not enter Daniel, we will get a traceback because you cannot convert a string with no numbers in it, the string that has letters in it, to an integer. So I have to remove this, and now we should change this instead from 4 to James, and then we can copy this. Here's James. So now if we enter Daniel, it'll print your name is Daniel. If we rerun it and enter James, it'll print James. But all we're doing is printing the name. So is there a faster way of doing this? Yes, there is a much faster way. New is instead print your name is space, and then square brackets or curly braces, and then in here put name, and I should also change this variable from number to name. And then if we add an F right before the quotes, what this is called is an F string. Basically what it does is anytime it has curly braces, it treats it as if it's an actual value. So here we can put in name, and then it'll take it it'll find the value of name. And if we didn't have this F there and we entered a name, it'll print exactly what it is. But if we have this F before, you can see it changes from green, which is the string's color, to a white text with orange curly braces. So now if we run this and put, say, James, now it'll print your name is James. And it works for all names because it's looking directly to the variable and the value that the name variable is given, which is basically from here. So that's one trick you can use to shorten your code. Have an understanding of what conditionals are. Let's try an exercise. I encourage you to pause this video and see if you can figure it out. In this exercise, what we want to do is check if current score is higher than high score, and if it is, set high score to the current score. If it is not, then you do not want to set the current score to high score. So pause the video, see if you can do it. Okay, I assume you've tried the problem. What we need to do is make an if statement. We say if current score is greater than high score, colon, and then when we hit enter, it'll auto again. We set high score equals current score. And then if we want to, what we can do is we can print your new high score is high score. So now, if we run this, it'll say, since our current score is greater than our high score, because 200 is greater than 150, it'll say your new high score is 200. Well guys, that is everything you need to know about conditionals. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!